Hey everyone, in this InDesign tutorial, I'm going to show you how to make a basic business card. We're going to design this whole thing from scratch. I'm going to show you how to do facing pages like this so you can export it really easily and also see your business card layout. I'm also going to show you how to get all of this information in here, set up paragraph styles, and be able to edit this and line it up with columns and margins and have bleed on here so you can export with backgrounds over the edges. Let's dive right in. Let's start a new file here in InDesign. So we're going to go up to File, New, and then Document, or you might see the new document window already. Now I have Preview checkmarked right here, so we can already preview what our business card's going to look like. Command or Control minus and plus will help me zoom out of that look, and then I can move this box over if I need to. I cannot scroll around this document to move it over, which would be nice, but that's okay. Now, in my presets, I personally am going to start with inches. You can set it up to whatever your printer needs. So if you're working in centimeters, millimeters, or the picas or whatever, you can use any of these. I'm going to set up in inches, 3.5 by 2, kind of a standard size. But once again, if you're printing these online, just go look at what the sizing requirements are that they need, what the bleed requirements are that they need. We'll get into all that. Okay, so I'm going to select facing pages, and we're going to have 2 pages. We're going to start on page 1. Columns, I'm going to do 5 with the column gutter of 1/8 inch. That's 0.125. And then on the margins, scroll down pretty quick there. On the margins here, we're going to have 0.25 inches all the way around. And then if we scroll down a little bit further, I've got 0.125 set as the bleed. That's 1/8 inch bleed, which is pretty standard. That's it. We can hit create. So now we have this layout out here. Now I don't see my pages of my business card next to each other, do I? So let's fix that really quick. First, up here, one thing we need to do is right click on my pages. If you don't see the pages window, you can go up to window, down to pages, and make sure that's check marked. Generally speaking, you'll probably see the properties pane over here, and pages should be tucked in next to it. So once again, we'll right click on one of our pages, and we're going to uncheck allow document pages to shuffle. Once we have that unchecked, we can actually grab one of our pages here, like page 2, and drag it up and hook it onto the other page up here. Now we have 2 pages connected. It kind of looks like a spread. It is a spread. It's like a 2-page spread, except for the first page in your document always stands alone like a cover page. So this allows us to see the front and back of our business card at the same time. We have one issue here though. This bleed is now shared between these two, and that's really not going to work out very well for us creating these business card graphics. So we need to use the page tool. That's going to be this second little tool here in your toolbar. Shift P is the shortcut key for that. Now once we have that, we can actually click and drag our pages away from each other. Now if we have issue with that, which I'm having issue right now, there's probably a very good reason. We might need to turn facing pages off. So let's go up to File, down to Document Setup, and we're going to uncheck facing pages and then hit OK. Now once we have that unchecked, there we go. We can actually drag these pages apart from each other. Check that out. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit. Press Command or Control plus and minus to zoom in and out, or press Z and you can kind of click and scroll to zoom in and out. I'm going to press V to go back to my selection tool. Okay, cool. We have 2 pages set up here, or 2 sides of our business card. Let's look at the left-hand side first. I'm going to create a very simple back of the business card. We're going to flood it with a color. To do that, I'm going to create a rectangle with the color. I'm going to swap the fill and the stroke here. I want just a fill and no stroke. If you have colors in both here, what you can do is click on the stroke and click this little apply none. It'll switch it to this slash. Then we're going to click back on this fill. I'm going to double click on it, and we're going to select a color. This color picker is a little bit different. This is kind of like the darkness and lightness, and then you can go all the way up here for white. It's a little different than some of the other programs. Not really sure why, but I'm going to select some kind of blue. maybe right in here. You can see the hex code down here if you really want to follow along that directly, or just select whatever color you want and press OK. Now with the rectangle tool selected, the shortcut key for that is M. What we can do is find the corner edge of our bleed out here, click and drag from one corner to the other, just like that. And it's going to create a rectangle, basically slapping a little background on our business card. Now, if you kind of missed the bleed edges there, you can press V, which is the shortcut key for the selection tool here in InDesign. And you can always click and drag and scale this rectangle out. One little note that I like to do is go ahead and drag your any element that's going to the bleed, go ahead and drag it outside of the bleed. When you export this, it's going to cut off at the bleed. But in case I just barely missed that, I don't want there to be like a white line. The bleed should be cut off anyway once the printer actually prints the document, but I don't know. I just like doing this as a designer. I like to make sure that my color actually goes past the bleed so that when I export this, I have a full width bleed of this color. This background color goes all the way to the edge. Now, if you're not seeing the bleed lines here, or any of these lines, in fact, the W key on your keyboard switches preview modes. So right here, we've got these two preview modes. You've got normal and you've got preview. Preview essentially views your document or whatever you're working on without all of the guides or margins or bleed on there. So any text boxes, you don't see the outlines of anything. So that's really nice to kind of see what it's looking like. But then if you need all those guides again, press W and it's going to get you back to this. Okay, so we have this rectangle out here and it's colored in. Let's go ahead and create a very, very simple sort of logo. Now, one thing you can do, once you have a background set, you can just lock it into place, make sure it's selected and press Command L or Control L. You can also right click when you have it selected and you'll probably find lock in there too. All right, so now that we have this locked in, I'm going to create another rectangle. This one is going to be white. So I'm going to double click on this fill, kind of drag all the way up to this corner and maybe all the way up here. The other way that you can grab, I'm used to double clicking on these, but in InDesign, the other way you can grab color is with that rectangle tool open. You can actually go up to the window drop down, grab your color panel. And if you want, you can dock it over here if it's not already. And inside of here, you could grab colors. There's CMYK. The other really useful, like any color you put in your document, if you go into window down to, it's probably going to be in color again. So let's go back to color and yes, swatches right there. So swatches, anything you create out here, it's automatically going to put a swatch. Every color sort of in your document stored as a swatch unless it's within an image. But anything like vector based is going to be a swatch ahead. So I already automatically created this blue swatch, which will be nice to use later. So if I have elements I want to be this color blue, I can just select this swatch when I have that element selected. Okay, so we're going to create another rectangle out here. I'm going to go kind of from this edge of this little margin or this column right here all the way across to here. And I'm going to hold shift at the same time because I want it to be a perfect square. So once we kind of have that locked in, and we can always resize it later, we can go ahead and center this square up. I'm going to grab my selection tool, make sure my square is selected, go to the Align panel over here in my Properties panel, and find Align to Selection. Nope, not that one. I'm going to align either to Margins, Page, or Not Spread in this case. So let's just align to the margins. And then I'm going to center horizontally and vertically. And now this square is directly in the center of this side of the card. The other thing I'm going to do here is create a letter. So I'm just going to say, hey, my company starts with the letter S, and the logo is literally just the letter S in a box. So we're going to press T for the type tool. Just going to kind of draw a text box out here, clicking and dragging. And then I'm going to type the letter S. Now that I have that typed out there, I'm going to select a font really quick in my character panel, in this properties panel, and we're going to use enter. I don't know the emphasis on those syllables, but we're going to use this font. I'm going to go with black on this one, and we're going to kind of scale it up a little bit, maybe to 30. Whatever, if you're following along, use whatever you know, size you like, whatever letter, whatever font you like, anything like that. So now this is the weight that I want. I don't personally want to edit the font or anything any more than this, but I am going to edit the size and also the alignment. And it's a lot easier to edit that if this was a shape and not editable text. So once I have the letter shape out here that I want, I'm going to get rid of this text box and really outline this S by going up to type and going down to create outlines. That's Shift Command or Control O. Once I do that, this text is actually a shape. So it is not editable anymore, but that's fine with me. What I can do with it is use those same alignment options and align it horizontally to the center and vertically as well. So now this S is in the middle, and I can actually scale it up and down really easily. Now if I start to scale from the corner, it's going to skew. I don't see a preview of that, but you can see the bounding box is really skewing. So I need to hold Shift. That's going to keep it proportional. I'm also going to hold Option, and that's Alt on Windows. So we're holding Option, and we're kind of scaling this out from the center, holding Option and Shift. And we're just going to size this. We're going to kind of eyeball this in here. Maybe something, you know what? Maybe something like that is fine. Now I do want to change the color. So remember that swatches panel we still kind of have open over here. Click on that blue, and it changes to a blue. Now we can click off. And I don't like these sharp corners, so we're going to click on this and just edit this corner a little bit in the properties appearance section. I'm going to grab rounded. That's a little too rounded, so we'll just kind of click in here, use the up and down arrow keys, and you can also type in values that you want for the corner radius there, but I think that works. So now if I press the W key, we actually see the back of our card has been completed, right? We put a little mock logo on there, and it's a very clean back of your business card. Just a little bit here. I'm going to scale that down because I think it was a little too big. That's a lot better. Okay, there we go. Now let's come over here and do the real details part of the card. So I have all these columns and the margins set up to create some white space in your card. Now to start with, we're going to create a text box. T is that shortcut key, and then find this corner of the margin. It should help kind of click you into it if you click anywhere near it to start drawing your text box. You can also zoom in and out if you want, and then you can just click and drag from here. And we're going to drag this out to make sure it's large enough to cover whatever name you're putting in here. So I'm going to put in my name, Spencer Martin. And then we need to change the font because I want to select my own font. Like I said, we're going to use Enter, and I'm going to use probably bold or extra bold. Not sure which one. We're going to try bold for starters. And then you can make any adjustments here, whether or not you want some kerning or tracking between, like spacing between all of your letters. You can select your size of font. Maybe I'm going to go with, I think I'll go with 12, make it nice and big. And also you can select the color. So you can select one of your swatches or go to your color tab and start selecting from there as well. Or even, of course, the swatches over here. Now, one thing to note, when you are trying to affect the color of the text and not the text box, one thing you need to do is make sure that if you just had this text box selected, you need to apply the color not directly to the text box like this, but instead you need to look at which one you're formatting for here. So formatting affects container. Well, I don't want any fill on that, but formatting affects the text. I do maybe want to change that. In this case, I don't, but I'm letting you know that if you're changing the text color, you want to make sure you either highlight the text so that this is selected, or if you have your text box selected or whatnot, just make sure you're applying it to the right spot. Okay, so we've got this done. Now I'm going to create a paragraph style, and that will allow us to reuse all the styling that we've done to this text. To do that, I'm going to find the text style area in my properties panel when I have text selected, and I'm going to hit the plus icon. And we're going to add a paragraph style. This one's going to be called header. Okay, so I can reuse this later if I wanted to keep my elements consistent in my design. In this case, the next line, I'm just going to press return, and we're going to type in my title, right? Visual designer. Okay, I don't want it to be this same style. So we're going to create a new style. I'm going to make sure to uncheck header for this line, and we're just going to do basic paragraph. I'm going to start with that. Now from here, I'm going to select my font again. I'm going to maybe do medium. And then I actually am going to select all caps on here. And we of course need to scale this down a little bit. So somewhere in the 8-point range. I'm even going to change the fill. So I'm going to select this, make sure I'm applying it to the text, not the frame. And I'm going to select 70% on the tint. So this is basically going to be like a 70% black. So you can see that we're creating some difference here. Now I feel like these are a little too close. So to adjust the line spacing or leading, there's actually this little selection here. Kind of shows you that icon. You're adjusting the spacing and the lines. We're going to do maybe 8/12 or 12/8. I forget which way we call that in the design world. So this gives us a little bit of spacing. We can always go back and edit this. Obviously, I'm just kind of recording this for you guys. One other thing I want to do with this one is actually give it some spacing in between the letters. And I would say 50 here on the tracking. And I think that's starting to look a little bit nicer. So we have some visual hierarchy here. Now, if we select this, and I'm actually going to bump this down maybe one more, and maybe bump this down one more too. So I'm just going to make it a little bit smaller. I want some contrast in my design. But if we do have this highlighted and we've locked in exactly what we're doing over here in our character panel and our appearance panel, then we're going to add another paragraph style. This one is going to be called subheader, because why not? So we've got header and subheader here now that we can reuse. So anytime you have a piece of text out here, we're just going to type some text. Doesn't matter what you type or how you type it. If I select this text, I can actually just quickly choose a paragraph style. There's my header, there's my subheader. Pretty neat. Those are the power. That's like the power of paragraph styles. Really saves you some time later on in your designs. Okay, cool. So this text box is plenty big. I can just kind of scale it up like this, and then we'll create another one down here. And actually what we could do is just duplicate this text box. So I'm going to click on it, hold Option or Alt, click and drag, and we're going to bring it down. If you hold Shift, it'll kind of keep it lined up. We're going to drag it to the bottom corner of the margin right there. And I'm going to drag this, or I'm going to expand this upward a little bit. So we're going to put our details down here. Now let's double click this, and we're going to press Command or Control A to select everything and just kind of delete it. Now down here is going to be like our phone number. It's going to be our website, our email, things like that. I'm going to do it pretty basic. I'm going to press P for the phone number. I'm going to do a little colon, and then of course we can just maybe type in a random phone number. Now this section I want to be smaller, so let's go ahead and style this. Right now it's on subheader. I think what I'm going to do is probably change to basic paragraph again, and then just do my own settings here. So we're going to go back to that enter font, and I think down here we're going to do regular. So we've got regular as the font weight. We're going to maybe make this 6 point. We might even make it 5.5 here in a second. And we're going to make sure the fill is 100% black. Yep, it is. So that's good. We're going to space it out a little bit. So we'll do that 50 here for the tracking again. And I accidentally scrolled on my mouse wheel, so we're going to redo that. And we've got the phone down here, right? So we could press enter, and we're going to do email, and we're going to just say it's info@company.com, right? So whatever your company, whatever your email is here. Now you might notice something. These, depending on the size of the letter here, in fact, it's going to be even more apparent if we put in a website here. So like www.yourcompany.com. So look at this. These are starting to be misaligned, right? There's actually something really cool in Illustrator, or not in Illustrator, in InDesign that we can do here with tabs. And what you need to do is make sure you have a text box selected like this. And we're going to go up to type down to tabs right here. And it's going to open up this little tabs panel. It actually lines it up with your text box, which is nice. You can move it around, but in between here, we can adjust these different tabs. So this right here is the starting point of your text box. And so you can see it moves everything over. Well, we don't want that. What we want to do is add another tab in here. And that tab, if we click, just adds right in there. And we can actually see a line on our text box of where it's going to line up that tab, and we can drag it around. I'm going to have everything line up with the W one because I know W is the widest letter that I'm going to use. So we're going to line it up right about here. Okay, nothing happened. That's because we actually have to use the tab button on our keyboard. Okay, so we come in here and we have some space here. We get this right before our number starts, and we hit tab. And what it does is it will tab you over to each of the tabs that you've added in the tabs panel. So tab, perfect. And this one's already lined up, right? So that one's okay. And then we can press enter. And what's the last one we need? Maybe an address. So we'll do a random address, and we can press tab. It'll get us lined up to that tab. So everyone's lined up on the tab, which is, it's really, really nice. We're gonna do some street in New York, New York. Sound good? Not New York, Indiana. New York, and 55555. There we go. That's the zip code. Okay, so one other thing before we lock in this paragraph style is the line spacing and maybe even the size of our elements. You can keep your elements this size or whatever size you want. I might go 5.5, and then I'm going to adjust the line spacing here a little bit. I'm not sure what I'll do. I think 10 might be a little too much. We're going to do 9 right there. And then one other thing that we can do here, and I'm actually going to just get rid of this tabs menu. Don't know what happened there. Must have clicked something somewhere. However, one other thing that we can do here is actually align these elements to the bottom of this text box. To do that, we can click on our text box, right click on it, and go to text frame options. The shortcut key for that is Command or Control B. Okay, in here, we actually have vertical justification, along with a lot of other options for your frames, for your text box. But right here on this text box, I'm gonna align it to the bottom. And if previous check marked, you can actually see what that does and hit OK. Now, no matter how many details we add here, it's going to add them from the bottom up, which is what we would want. We want the final line of this section to be lined up on this bottom margin. Now, I think that we could probably go back to 6-point font and keep the 9-point line spacing. That's just a designer adjusting elements. Nothing's ever finished, right? But this we are going to lock in. So let's go up to our paragraph settings again, and we're going to add a new one, and we're going to call this details. There we go. So we have details paragraph settings. Now, if you drop this down, you can actually see we have header, subheader, and details in here. And we can reuse these anywhere in our design. Now, one more thing to note, you see they have character styles here too. You can actually do character styles within paragraph styles, but also if you had all of this as a paragraph style, you can make adjustments to that, as a whole unit, like everything will change. So if you change the kerning here and apply it to your paragraph style, the kerning changes in every line. But if you want to make individual changes to elements, you would maybe need to use a character style. So for instance, if I wanted this to be black, but this to be that 70% tinted black, what I could do is change this fill to 70% like that, and then go to character style and add a character style, and I could call that 70 tinted or something like that. So now I could select info at company, and I could say, oh, the character style I want to apply to that is 70 tinted. And you can see how it tints that line. You can't do, so paragraph style kind of goes line by line, but character style you can apply to specific sections. So if you wanted to do something like that, you could, without having to go in and reselect the exact tint percentage every time. You can set that up as another automatic thing. Now, in this case, I'm not going to, but I wanted to show you that option with character styles. Cool, so we are almost there. What I want to do is bring this little logo thing over here, which we can select both of by clicking and dragging and selecting. Make sure this guy's locked, or else you'll also select him or move him around. Now, I want to keep these two together, so I'm going to group them together. That's Command or Control G, or you can right click and select Group. Now this element is grouped. I don't even need to select it. It moves around together. I don't have to select things individually. I can duplicate that by holding Option or Alt and kind of bring it over here. Now it's going to look a little weird because I can't see this white box. So what you could do is drag it outside of your business card to make some adjustments to it. The adjustments I want to do is flip-flop these. I want the box to be blue and the S to be white. So I can double click into this group, select that box, and adjust the fill. And actually, I'll go to those swatches and just grab that blue. And then I'm going to select the S. I might have to double click, make sure I get that S selected, and select paper as the white color. So now I've got this, and I can drag it over here and kind of line it up with my margin in the bottom right corner. And then because I have all these columns and stuff set up, I can actually select maybe this line or this line, depending on, how your logo looks in this corner. And I can scale this down, make sure you also hold Shift at the same time, and just select which of these you want to line it up on. So if you want a smaller logo, maybe like this, you could go a little bigger or whatever size you would like. And now we can press that W key and see a preview of our business card design. Cool. So we finished one business card. What if you wanted to make more? Well, we can go back to Pages. We can just select both of these pages by holding Shift and selecting both. Hold Option or Alt, and we can duplicate this business card down. So now we have another spread where we can just come in here and say, oh, this is another person. We'll go with Lynn Martin, and this person is the director of design, right? So we've got these multiple spreads in here, which is multiple business cards that we can then export. Speaking of export, let's go ahead and export. So how would we export this? Well, we'd go up to File, we would go down to Export, and actually, personally, I would just go to Adobe PDF Presets and select High Quality Print. From here, we're going to select the folder, and we're going to select the name. So if I just wanted business cards, I could do that. And we're going to hit Save, and that's going to save as a business cards PDF into this folder. And we've got this whole PDF, export PDF area. In my opinion, unless your printer says, hey, we need compatibility to be a certain thing, we want the standard to be this PDF X1A 2001, unless you have that information, which I would just reach out to your printer and ask what they want, high quality print should do just fine for you. Now, we do need to select the range. So we can select all pages and export it as pages. That's fine. It will give you individual pages, so that might not work so well. The other thing you could do is create separate PDF files, but let's look at just one business card for a second. If we wanted just the first business card, that would be pages 1 and 2. You can see it up here. So we could select 1 to 2 and export as pages. Then if we look in our marks and bleeds, we actually have printer marks. So if your printer wants those, you can add them, but we do need to add document bleed settings so that this background that goes over the edge or to the edge of our card, it needs to extend with the bleed, and then the printer will cut that off so that your background doesn't print with like a little white line or something. Because when they print these business cards, the printing process and the cutting process can be off by a little bit. That's why 1/8 of an inch or so, they need that room. So once we have that selected, and we've selected which business card we're exporting, we can hit Export. That's going to go to where we saved it. So if we go and find it, we've got it right here, and we can double click on that. And you can see I've got 2 pages in here, the front and the back of the business card. Now, this is going to depend on your printer and how they want to receive the files, or your online printer and how you upload files. You might upload a back that doesn't change, and then the front, you might upload a bunch of them to change the information, like to print out a lot of different people's business cards. Or if you're doing one at a time, you can just upload them like this. Or if your printer can handle it and they're fine with it, you can go back and export each of these and have them all in one single PDF. So they know that every 2 pages of that PDF is another business card. The other thing that, I don't want to lead you wrong in this right here, I might need to go look it up, and I will create a tutorial on this channel for it, is that option in here, up to File, Export, High Quality Print. Of course, we're just going to save this, create separate PDF files. I need to make sure that if you were to click spreads or even pages, I think pages will create separate files for each of these pages. Spreads will create a separate file for the spreads, but your printer might not want them uploaded as spreads. That's where the issue comes in. So I would say that finding out from the printer or the upload place how you need to export these would be best. And then you can export and decide what's best for that scenario. But you could do all pages. That's how you would do that. So this is kind of how you would make adjustments to how that PDF is going to come out. Anyway, if you guys have any questions about this, hit me up in the comments down below. I hope this video was much longer than, of course, I thought a simple business card design video would be. However, I think we covered a lot here in InDesign. I hope I didn't miss anything. And you guys just let me know if you have questions or if you want something explained a little more, and I'll just create more tutorials on this channel. I'll see you guys in the next video.